Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Emily Winslow and I love to help others learn watercolor and find joy in painting. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint a super simple beach landscape, and this one was requested by one of you in the comments because last year I went on a trip to Punta Cana and I did this one on plein air, so I'm excited to show you guys how I painted it. And again, you can always let me know in the comments below what you want to learn how to paint, and I'd be happy to make a tutorial on it. So let's go ahead and grab our paintbrushes and get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on what paint materials we are using for today. So I like to use this Winsor & Newton watercolor palette. You can find it on my Amazon storefront link in the description. Little disclaimer, I do add a white tube of paint to my palette. This palette does not come with white, but I tend to use white in my paintings a lot, so you can go ahead and add a tube of that to your palette. For my brushes, I have a size 12 and a size 6, and then the paper, I'm using Strathmore. I cut it to a size 5x5 for today's painting. So again, you can find all of this in my Amazon storefront link. So let's go ahead and get started on our drawing of the beach. So this is going to be a super simple painting. I'm just going to make a horizon line basically, and then mark out where the waves are hitting the shore. So for the horizon line, it's going to be a little bit, I'd say maybe 75% towards the top and maybe a little bit lower. So we're just going to have it definitely higher than halfway. A lot of times when I do horizon lines, it's about halfway or lower. So this one's a little bit different in that way. And then for the waves, I'm going to just mark out where I want it to hit the shore or the sand, and we're just going to make it a very uneven line. We don't need this to be straight. And we're actually going to do kind of a double line. The reason why we're sketching out the wave here is we want to leave some areas a little bit more white than others, and so we want to just mark out where we don't want to put our paint. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We don't need to do a ton of other sketching other than that, so we can move on to our painting. So I'm going to start with my larger brush for this part, and we are doing the sky first. So I'm going to make a really light blue here, and I'm just taking my white and a tad bit of blue to mix that up. Now when I'm doing paintings, I usually like to leave a little bit of white space on the outside, but for this one, we are going to cover the entire page. So I'm just going to take the paint and go all the way across. Now this painting was requested by somebody in my comments who saw this on one of my shorts and wanted to learn how to paint it. I did this painting back when I was on a trip in Punta Cana. So I did it on plein air on the beach, which was so much fun. So we're just kind of recreating that scene that I got to see live. And one day I'd like to go back and do some more plein air painting. But like I always say, I'd love if you submit any comments below on what you want to learn how to paint. If you see something in, the background of my videos that you like, or you come across something, I'd love if you just submit that in the comments and I'd be happy to make a tutorial on it. Okay, I think that's pretty good for the sky. I just want it to be a very nice light blue. Now before I move on to the sea, which is going to be kind of a greenish tone, I'm going to do the sand first actually, and we're just going to take a very light brownish color. So I'm taking brown and white, maybe a little bit of yellow in there. We just want it to be a nice sandy color here, and we're going to start light and then continue to layer over. So I'm going to go underneath where I marked out that line for the wave, and again we're just making this go all across the page here. Helps to keep dipping your paintbrush in the water if you need to make it spread out a little easier. Sometimes it just takes practice to balance out that water to paint ratio. I used to definitely add way too much water in. That's also not very good for the paint because it makes it spread out a little bit too much. So it just takes practice. So I mixed up a little bit of a darker tone here, and I'm just taking that around the corners and underneath that wave that we marked out earlier. I just want it to be a little bit darker around the corners and lighter towards the middle. So now I'm going to take an even lighter version of this. I'm taking a little bit more white, and I'm going to start going into the water here. I'm going to leave a little space for the wave. This part is going to be completely white, but I'm going to start going in, and this is kind of like an optical illusion of, you know, how the water is clear as it goes up towards the shore. We want to see that sand in it. So we're not making all of the water blue. We want some of it to be this very light tan color. Makes it look a little bit more realistic. And I'm just adding that a little bit here and there throughout the wave here, just making sure that some of it is left white. Now I'm going to wet this entire area of the water. This is called the wet on wet technique, where we're just gonna lay water over the entire area where we're about to add paint. And now I'm gonna mix up this water. I want it to be more of a teal. So I have some green in there, a little bit of blue, and maybe a little bit more green. It might take a little bit of time to mix up the exact color you're looking for. I think this looks about good to me. I want it to be, I'm gonna have a little bit of white in there, especially towards the front here. I'm gonna start tapping that in, and I want it to be lighter towards the front. So see how this paint is spreading nice because we laid water over the entire page. I'm just adding that in throughout. And I'm gonna take a darker version of this here, and I'm going to add that in towards the back. The water was so gorgeous on this vacation, and sometimes it's just like, pictures don't do it justice. You have to be there, and that's what I love about plein air painting, is because I feel like it almost captures the essence of where you are, even better than photographs sometimes. I don't know. It's like you feel like you're there when you look at a painting that you do in person. Now I'm going to take a little bit more of this tan color and just continue to mix that in the middle here. Just want that to be a very well blended spot. And I'm just taking more of a darker tan color, and we're just gonna tap that in. Helps to, you know, start light and layer in as much as you need. Kind of wanna, you know, make it sporadic, add some lines here and there throughout the water as if it's a little bit clear towards the back here. And I'm just gonna continue adding that throughout the waves. Now I'm going to take a darker, again, teal color, maybe even add a little bit of black in there. And I'm just going to even more define this line back here. I think that was a little bit too blue for me, so just going back to the colors here. So we want to just easily add that in towards the back. We don't want to add too thick of a line. I'm just lightly swiping that across the page. That's a little bit more depth to our painting here. And I'm just adding that down the sides as well. Maybe even try to make some waves. So I'm adding that in the middle a little bit. This part always takes a little bit of concentration for me because I don't want to add too much paint. Sometimes with watercolor you can overwork it a little bit, so important to know when to stop. So I'm going to visit our waves here a little bit in the front, and I'm just going to take like a purplish color. So I'm mixing red and blue, a little bit of that, and just some white. We want something very light here. So I'm just going to take that along the bottom of our waves here and maybe around the top a little bit. We want to just make sure it's not completely stark white. I'm just adding that here throughout very lightly, again towards the bottom and then around the middle too. So we want to make sure we're getting some shadows underneath our waves here. And once we're done with this light layer, we're actually going to take a darker color and go even more underneath it. This painting is supposed to kind of represent when you're, you know, walking along the shore and you put your feet in the water and it starts to go up on your feet. So now I'm just going to blend all of these layers by just taking a wet brush. We don't need any other color on it, and just taking that across, making it blend into each other a little bit more so it's not such a stark line. And now I'm kind of seeing where I want to add a little bit more of our darker tan color. So I'm taking, again, some brown, a little bit of orange maybe, and I want to add that kind of around the top of the wave here. Maybe even a little bit into this area. The more layers that we continue to add with watercolor, the more it can have that 3D effect. So that's what we're doing here. I always find water pretty difficult to paint with watercolor. You know, it's hard to take away a swipe of your paintbrush, or you know, like I said earlier, you can overwork it a little bit if you continue adding too much paint and water. And so I always find it a little bit hard to just get that effect of having the water look clear. So I think it's just a matter of practicing with it. You know, still not perfect with this, and we'll never be perfect with it, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. So that's what I hope you continue to do, is practice, and watercolor will become easier. I used to get pretty frustrated with this medium. So I'm taking another darker color. I'm adding blue, a little bit more red in here, and I'm just gonna take that right underneath the wave here. I think this part really makes it pop a little bit when you add that darker shade. So we don't want it to be too straight of a line. I'm making a dotted motion here, kind of like the wave is bubbling. We don't want to have a straight line. I'm even going up a little bit into the wave to add those little bubbles, or foam. Usually it looks a little foamy at the front of the wave. This painting is making me want to go on a beach vacation. Now I'm just going to take my wet brush and just kind of swipe away. I think I added a little bit too much darkness, so I want it to be uneven, and I don't want the entire line underneath to be dark, and I think I did that. So I'm just kind of taking away a little bit. Okay, and then I'm just gonna continue just adding a little bit of that darkness right above the wave here. As you can see, it's just a lot of playing around with the waves, just kind of seeing what helps and, you know, what doesn't. If you need to take away paint, you can do so, which, noticing I'm kind of doing that. I'm adding paint then taking it away. I think it's definitely starting to take shape. So I just want to make sure that the lines aren't too stark and they're well blended. And you can just do that by taking a wet brush and swiping that over an area to blend it better. That's something I really like about, I think it's specifically this watercolor palette. I've tried a few different ones, but this one just seems really versatile in that you can lay paint down and continue to blend it even after it's there for a little bit. Whereas other paints that I've used, I think that it's like been a little bit harder to blend, like even right after you lay it down. So just playing around with what palettes you like and which ones you don't like. You know, it can vary from artist to artist. You may not like this palette that I'm using, but you may prefer another one. So just important to try it on your own. Okay, lastly, I'm just taking a little bit more of my dark tan and just laying that in throughout. And I think this is probably going to be the last thing we do. Taking that a little bit towards the bottom here. And I'm just swiping that across. I think we did a pretty good job of making it have that essence of feeling like you're on the shore and that it's about to crash up on your feet. One of the best feelings. So I'm just continuing to add a few swipes here and there. And here's what our beach painting looks like. I hope you all enjoyed doing this with me, and join me for my next video. Now that our painting is complete, I hope you all walk away with a beautiful beach landscape, and I hope you enjoy painting this alongside me. This one is super simple and easy to paint, so grab a group of friends and host a painting party. This one would be perfect for that. And as always, I'd love to see your work, so you can find me on social media at Emily Winslow Art, and like this video and subscribe to my channel. Until we paint again next time.